forklifts. We're so comfortable working with them every day that we don't think about driving them safely, and that can lead to trouble.
Good morning, sir.
Is there a problem, officer?
You're driving too fast for this area.
Driving too fast. I've got to get some work done here.
Sir, you can't control your speed, and that's reckless driving. Now, may I see your operator's license? Easy. Now your inspection checklist.
My inspection.
Step off the forklift, please. Wait here, please. I want to run this through the computer.
We'd all be pretty surprised if we were pulled over every time we took a shortcut at work. After all, we've got deadlines to meet and product to move. In fact, half the cost of doing business in America is spent moving materials, and forklifts are the center of the action. But if they're not operated properly, if you take the shortcuts instead of the safe route, forklifts can be dangerous. It amazes me that over 37,000 forklift accidents happen in the United States each year. As a forklift driver, your work is important, not only to the success of your company, but also in preventing injuries and damaged goods. Driving safely and efficiently means knowing how a forklift works, how to inspect it, and how to operate it safely. Let's start at the beginning. How does a forklift work? The key is leverage. Imagine a teeter-totter. The front wheels are the pivot point, with the weight of the load on the front side, and a counterweight on the other side for balance. The farther the load is from the pivot point, the heavier it seems to be. There are three factors that can influence a forklift's ability to do its job: rated capacity, load center, and stability. Rated capacity is the top weight a forklift can lift. You can find this on the ID plate or in the operations manual. The rated capacity is usually based on a load center of 24 inches, which is the distance from the heels of the forks out to the load's center of gravity. If the load center is farther out than 24 inches, the forklift can't handle as much weight. Stability is the forklift's ability to resist tipping forward or sideways. To understand stability, imagine a triangle. The forklift is most stable when the center of gravity remains inside this triangle. Without a load, the center of gravity is here. Add a load and the center of gravity moves forward. Go around a corner and the center of gravity shifts to the side. Go fast enough and the forklift tips. As a forklift operator, it's up to you to gauge the load correctly and keep the center of balance within the stability triangle. You can test a load's weight by lifting it 1 or 2 inches, then stop and see if the forklift feels stable and if the rear wheels are firmly on the floor. If they are, and if the steering seems normal, it's probably safe to move the load. Now you may think you're ready to drive. Not yet. Let's make sure this truck won't fail. Like any machine, a forklift can have parts wear out due to use. That's why it's important to inspect your forklift at the start of each shift. Here's what to look for. Look at the mast for broken or cracked weld points and obvious damage such as dents. Make sure roller tracks are greased and the chains are free to travel. Be sure the forks are evenly spaced and crack-free. Examine the hydraulics for leaking fluids, loose fittings, or damaged cylinders. Check fluid levels and inspect mounting hardware on the cylinders. Check other fluid levels, oil, coolant, and fuel. Look at the floor under the forklift for signs of leaks. If levels are low, fill them. Look at the tires for excessive wear or splitting of pneumatics. What about the wheel nuts? Are they tight? Check the overhead guard for any damage. On electric trucks, inspect the battery case. Look for cracks, broken welds, corrosion, or other damage. When servicing batteries, always wear personal protective equipment to protect yourself from the battery acids. There should also be an eye wash station nearby. On LP trucks, check that the LP lines are tight and the tank is secure. If you need to work with fuel tanks, handle them outside and away from other workers. Keep away from open flames and hot work, and make sure that oil or fuel spills are cleaned up right away. Finally, start the forklift and check all gauges for normal readings. Lift the carriage to the maximum height and listen for any unusual sounds, a sign of possible trouble. Check the steering, horn, lights, and brakes. Be sure all control levers return to neutral position after use. If your inspection shows any parts that need replacement or repair, make sure you get it fixed before you begin work, and keep all the inspection forms and repair records on file. Once the forklift is inspected, you're ready to go. Safely operating a forklift requires good technique to prevent damage to the load, the forklift, co-workers, and yourself. Let's quickly go over how to pick up a load. Be sure the load is stable and secure. Square up on the load center and approach it straight on. Stop with the fork tips about 1 foot from the load. Make sure no one is standing near the load. Then level the forks and slowly drive forward until the load is resting against the mast. Lift the load carefully and smoothly. Tilt the mast back slightly to stabilize the load by moving more of the weight over the wheels. Never raise the load while you're moving. There are other safety factors to keep in mind as you move materials. Travel with the forks as wide and as low as possible while allowing space to clear uneven surfaces or debris. If you can't see over or around the load, drive backwards. If you have to deal with inclines and downgrades, travel with the load facing uphill. Never try to turn, because your center of gravity will shift and you'll tip. Turning makes the back of a forklift swing wide. When you turn, consider the front wheels as the pivot point. Slow down and watch your swing as you're turning into an aisle. Observe all traffic rules, warning signs, floor load limits, and overhead clearances. And always follow at a safe distance, 3 truck lengths from other forklifts. When stopping, apply brake pressure evenly and come to a gradual stop. Slamming on the brakes can tip the load. To put a load down, square up, stopping about 1 foot away. Level the forks, then drive the rest of the way in. Lower the load, tilt the forks slightly forward. Look over both shoulders, then back straight out until the forks have cleared. Materials may be stacked to save floor space. Make sure you're stacking on a pile that's stable and can support the load you're stacking on top. The higher you lift, the more unstable the forklift gets. So it's very important to maneuver slowly when picking up or placing loads on high racks. Let's briefly talk about other situations that you may run into. When working with docks or trucks, make sure dock board or bridge plates are secure. Chalk the wheels of the truck. Check the floors of truck trailers for breaks or weaknesses, and drive slowly. And what about parking a forklift? Lower the forks to the floor. Move the controls to neutral, set the brakes, turn off the motor, and remove the key. If you're on an incline, block the wheels. Sometimes in our rush to meet deadlines, we get overconfident and forget about safe forklift operations. Driving a forklift requires skill and good technique, as well as attention to safety. There's no forklift patrol to pull us over for reckless driving or endangering other people or damaging material. This is one time when we have to take control ourselves. By understanding how a forklift works, how to inspect it, and how to safely operate it, you'll be driving safely and getting the job done right. By driving the safe route, you'll have everything going your way,